It's great to see all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. This is the fifth in a series of 6 readings celebrating the publication of recent poetry books by Jack Straw Writing Program alumni. And tonight we are featuring John Burgess, Bill Carty, Denise Calvetti Michaels, Paul Nelson, and Katharine Whitcomb. Susan Rich was going to join us tonight, but unfortunately she's under the weather, so we send her our greetings and wish she were here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening in. Our event is being simulcast on Facebook and YouTube and recorded for later. I'm going to begin with our land acknowledgement. Today we meet on the lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, and Muckleshoot nations and other Coast Salish peoples, past and present. The staff, board, and artists of Jack Straw Cultural Center acknowledge that we are living, creating, working, and playing on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle and the Salish Sea, and we honor them and the land itself with deep gratitude. I want to say thank you to the Jack Straw Cultural Center, especially Joan Rabinowitz and the mighty Levi Fuller, and I want to thank our engineers tonight, Daniel and Aisha, for helping us get this out into the world. Thank you so much. And thank you to our funders, the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, For Culture, Washington State Arts Commission, the National Endowment for the Arts, Arts Fund, the Lester and Phyllis Epstein Foundation, the Rainier Institute and Foundation, and individual contributors. I want to make you aware that the Writers Program deadline for this year is coming due 10 days away, October 31st. Everyone that you see reading tonight has benefited from the Jack Straw Writers Program, and a number of the people in our audience as well. So you know how wonderful this program is, and I encourage you to tell your writer friends about the program and to submit an application for the Writers Program. Our program curator for 2025 will be Kathleen Alcala, a 2-time Jack Straw Writing Fellow. She was born in Compton, California, to Mexican parents. She is the author of 6 books that include a collection of stories, 3 novels, a book of essays, and most recently, The Deepest Roots, Finding Food and Community on a Pacific Northwest Island. So she's going to be a wonderful curator, and I really hope you'll help us get the word out. We actually have an application workshop on Zoom tomorrow night. The details and registration links are at jackstraw.org/events. So I imagined this reading series when I considered how the pandemic really did a lot of damage to the poetry community and our ability to get our new books out into the world. And so I took this idea to Joan and Levi, and they were very encouraging of it, and I appreciate so much that they have invited me to go forth with this program. And it's been, all told, we'll have something like 36 or 7 readers in this series, so I'm just thrilled that we've been able to get the work out there. So I'm enjoying these readings. I'm looking forward to our reading tonight. I also want to make you aware that there's a book table out front, and I very sincerely encourage you to consider buying the books from our authors tonight, and so you'll take something home. Tonight, each of our readers will be reading for 10 minutes, and then we're going to have 3 readers, a 5-minute break, and then our final 2 readers. So that's how the evening will go, and I want to invite you to stay a little while afterward to chat and, of course, buy those books. Okay, I'm ready to begin with our first reader tonight. We're going to read in alphabetical order. John Burgess, who was a 2006 Jack Straw writer, grew up in upstate New York, worked on a survey crew in Montana, taught English in Japan, and since 1985 has lived in Seattle. A 2006 Jack Straw writer, he has 6 books of poetry from Ravenna Press, including Punk Poems Complete. He's a co-instigator with the Band of Poets. Please welcome John Burgess.
You too, punk, will age. Too soon blemishes which neon conceals will glare at noon. Like stairs a man in heels gets, just try to hide desires dragged out midday. You too will suit up, dress for day jobs, grow way too fat, too entrenched, too taxed, way too satisfied, fit to be tied. For the record, we're like that car I walked by, parked on Thomas Street. Its back seat and passenger side crammed with papers, books, magazines, newspapers, and atop this heap of memory scrap pile waits a 2.5-gallon can of gasoline. Upon reading Bukowski, maybe it's because I've been reading Bukowski lately, but I reek of gasoline. The way alcohol seeps from your skin after drinking too much. I'm sweating gasoline. The smell burns my nostrils. I'm afraid to light a match. A friend says, Bukowski's dead, you know. Every time I mention Bukowski, someone lets me know he's dead. But how did he die? Was he soaked too when he lit that match? Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Great to be here. Great to be part of the gathering tonight. Thanks to Kathleen for organizing and putting the series together. Thanks to Jack Straw. It meant a lot to me going through the writers program, made me a better presenter and reader. So I really appreciate that. And thanks to Ravenna Press. They put out Punk Poems Complete for me, which collects all 100 of my punk poems written over about 21 years worth of writing. So I have some punk poems for you tonight. Punk Poem 12. It's time to go, Gregory Corso. Leave America and its imperfections behind. Die while there's time to believe you leave a democracy behind. Status quo stole in 5 days after you turned your dark stare away from America. Die and move to footnotes and ossos. Resistance rests underground now. So go, Gregory Corso, just go. Punk Poem 14 for Joey Ramone. I saw you, Lake Ontario Club, 1978. I was the one pogoing in back, spilling as much beer as I was drinking. Genesee cream ale and green cans. You in ripped t-shirt, torn knee jeans with guitar on stage. I'd like to see you again. If you feel the same, call me. Punk Poems 42 and 43. Tonight, he is a poet, listening to jazz on the car radio, snapping his fingers. He's a beatnik, hepcat, cool dude, hip-hop man, driving the coast at midnight, caffeinated, never minding 9 to 5, improvising. He's a freestyling sax man, blowing words. Yes. Sax echoes through the underground. There was a line drawn. We always knew what side to take. On the street, the player blows each note. Punk Poem 47. Not so much love, but a flood. Not desire, touch, skin, not intimate, but a river. Not body, mind, heart, but current, a wash, a carrying away. Not forgive, forget, reunion, not meet again someday, not secondhand, second time around, nothing but this moment, nothing but. Punk Poem 61. Can't read your thoughts, you know, so leave a message about what's in your head, what you are thinking. I'll listen via speakerphone to your desires. Punk Poem 62 for Daniel Johnston. Talk into my microphone. Let me hear you say, I love you on my cassette recorder. I would dupe it 100 times, give it away for free. Punk Poem 70 and 71. Methinks I have mistaken. Methinks this matter. Methinks my body. Methinks faith a jackal. Methink things are not without their meaning, as if each silence, insular and incommunicable, methinks old wounds. There is magic in it. Such a mystical, such a pretentious monster carries you, infallibly leading you to overwhelming. Punk Poem 72 for J.T. Stewart. She was my mentor in 2006. It includes a quote from her. The test is to see if you can guess what she said. Listen to waves, to sailing out, to paddles of disbelief, the distance you put before me. Listen to the breaks, the hard times. Our own emotions will scare us shitless. Listen to that. Could you guess? Punk Poem 85 for Diane DePrima. May I call you goddess, ye who enters me, fornicates my mind, absolves all thoughts. May I call you wolf, ye who devours me, leaves this carcass exposed and castrated. May I tend your garden, may I mend your hem. Punk Poem 86, Michael McClure. Leave blank what's blank. Find your center. Let edges be edges. Take what starts as an idea, as ink to brush, and give it breath. With one stroke, birth to death. Punk Poem 87 for Joanne Kiger. I know what you're saying, that I have to see what's right in front of me and not set sights on distant desires. I must get by with my own eyes. From time to time, spot in the alley, coyote passing by. Punk Poem 95. Burn, America, burn. Dry up and burn. Burn with outrage and hatred, burn. These streets burn, these houses, these woods, burn every damn thing. Burn desire, burn even this. And then, we come to the end when you get to Punk Poem 100. So here's Punk Poem 100. Whoever took my Blondie LPs, please return them. No questions asked. I forgive you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next reader is Bill Carty, who is a 2010 Jack Straw writer. Bill Carty lives in Seattle and is the author of We Sailed on the Lake, Bunny Press, Phonograph Editions, and Huge Cloudy, Octopus Books, which was longlisted for the Believer Book Award. He is a senior editor at Poetry Northwest and teaches at Edmonds College and the Hugo House. Please welcome Bill Carty.
Right. Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you, John. There you are. I was looking for you. Looking forward to hearing everybody read. I thank you, Jared, who is my Jack Straw curator. What's the terminology? Okay. We knew each other from 826 Seattle back in the day. I'm going to read. I was trying to think of like some, I don't know, make things seasonally relevant some way. So these are like damp and spooky, damp, spooky poems. Yeah. Well, I have that poem too. It's a little longer, unfortunately. I'm gonna read. I'll start with the title poem from my first book, which is Huge Cloudy. The title is like a 2 words stolen from John Keats's poem, When I Have Fears, I May Cease to Be. Huge Cloudy. Survived summer, prove it, show the wound. A candle needs that darkness to star in. Ahead, the rhythmic activity of the interstate, a bollocks birthed by flaming Winnebago. It's a game day, so yeah, there's a game. October means huge cloudy days descend from the ridge and pluck me for the envelope. For instance, today I woke up, went about my daily rites, and was swallowed in fog. I wasn't making demands of myself or sending aristocrats up lampposts. I was having things, then having to have them. And so I felt that loss leave me. A hot air balloon. Yes, a balloon. Lightness is what I lost. It couldn't have been anything else. Okay, I'm gonna read some. I have a few copies of. I have 1 copy of Huge Cloudy that's damaged, so best offer of whatever, handshake, and then I brought some copies of this book as well. I'll start with. This is a spooky poem. I didn't mean it for it to be, but then I thought of it in that context, and it became scarier than I meant it. The image. Picked up a glove from a bush and found a hand inside. I didn't feel so lonely anymore. I felt a little spooked, honestly. We were shaking. We just met. And I couldn't extricate myself from the pleasantry. So I brought the hand home and put it on ice, like something I had to preserve. The forgetting was what I needed. During the pandemic, I rented an office upstairs, so some of these I think a lot of these poems were at least open, documents. I feel like, did I do any writing? I'm not sure. I walked around. I locked myself out of the office while I was teaching a Zoom class at the Hugo House, and students were like, what happened? Hopped on the bus to Ballard, got on my laptop there. It was funny. Okay, this is called Greenspan. I was working, we have to find ways to engage ourselves with the process of carrying on the task of writing, and I had this idea of I would repurpose the last names of various political figures, but this is not really a reference. It's just like a private joke, which is what a lot of poetry is in order to sustain itself, I think. I only got as far as Garland, as in Merrick, and this poem is called Greenspan. Greenspan. Wanted something, lost it, then found it in the yield curve. Sense the future's plotted swoon or swag, one lone drunk sipping from the mermaid fountain. Dark rush of clocks come to coerce evening, that misnomer. Show me the day that really ended at the level. I view the graph from above. It's a line now, last red streak in the sky before some recession settles beneath the concrete benches of the esplanade. It's cold. A couple leans on a rail. Are they taking a picture or looking at a picture they've just taken? Orange vesters clog the path ahead. To be safely seen or out to sell? I want to know exactly what I'm staring at. Neon blue sign in the window of the vision clinic. Song from shop speakers as I pass. One of those gold standards in which love must have been invented. I'm down here below the city, above water, climbing into the arcade where I refuse to make a purchase. I'm not carrying anything home tonight. No one I know is sick enough for balloons, or if they're sick, they're not telling. Of course, the answer's always flowers. Who wouldn't mind some life in this room the leaves blow into? What do you call it? Some say foyer, but it's nothing so romantic. Just one door with another door beyond it. All right, I'm going to read a new poem. It becomes seasonally appropriate at the end. Okay, Still Life. I didn't intend to travel from the page to old trouble, but as 4 village kids squatted around an army crank radio in the novel I read, I recalled the one my father kept for outside work. One side of the barn whitened every autumn, gutters cleared, radio crackling through Saturday's concerns. The harbor silent, bridge work halted for wind or tide. Sometimes the radio and I were alone weekday afternoons as I bounced a tennis ball off the roof, or alone one Friday morning, school canceled for another bomb scare, 3rd that week, and when the sheriff gathered us in the Legion Hall, we eye-rolled the considerable toll on our learning, took the scolding, and I was home by 10. Though the radio had been made to carry sound through time, I thought I might glean through disassembly. Soon, news of the world disintegrated into a mess of plates and screws. It was the UN's year of sport and Olympic ideals, year of the broadcast ban of Sinn Féin, the Power Mac, and the radio's last report before I'd undid it completely was the birth of the Channel Tunnel. Then nothing. I wasn't there anymore. I was back beneath this maple, reading the book, drifting a bit. I'd been waiting all day for you to meet me in Mystic. A few gulls, a boat named Thor, a lone kayaker with his sun shirt's hood cinched tight beneath his chin. Then a message. You were near now. A vendor's dog slept at the plinth of the memorial. A wreath, 2 rifles, one sun doubling on the dog's bare patch of skin. In the harbor, Adagio, Bacchanal, Wit's End. 40 past the hour, a horn sounded, then another, then a third. The road went aloft. You'd be another 20 minutes now. Sorry they couldn't hold the bridge for you. I rose to close the distance, walking past a gallery window stenciled with a quote from Brock. I was more concerned to get in tune with nature than to copy. Brock, ex-soldier, blinded and trepanned after the century's first war, and who, in the interbellum, painted skulls. Skull and vase, skull with baluster, palette skull, sand brushed into skulls mustard brown and deep blue, and if he can't remember painting them, we'll remember for him. skull and rose, skull half purple with night, skull with crosses, all the skulls that preceded his birds, birds that sputtered into open sky, black and white on blue, birds that came to him in paint, in pencil, in pairs after the war. All right. Skulls. That's what okay, very short poem to end with. This is during the awakening of the early pandemic. I started eavesdropping a lot on people's conversation and just tapping notes on my phone in coffee shops or as people were walking by, which you can do with a phone in a way. A notebook makes you suspicious, but your phone, you just look like every other maniac out there. So a lot of this comes from that project. This one's more edited. Some of the other ones are more directly overheard language, but this one also, shout out to my dentist who gives me who gave me some language for this poem too. The parking situation. The season's gone, but everyone's got the green field in their vision for tomorrow, for Thursday, for the weekend. I looked all over, almost tipped the table. The dogmatic grid ran through my head. That was forever ago. We made turns, came upon a chain, to have been any old solitary bird then. Tilt your head this way. I do not wish to be lost. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our next reader is Denise Calvetti Michaels, who was a 2010 Jack Straw writer as well. Denise Calvetti Michaels' 2024 poems are found in Ovunc Siamo, Patterson Literary Review, and Clamor. North Creek, published by Cave Moon, includes published poetry alongside poems by Joan McBride and Sue Sulmer. Denise teaches for Cascadia College and recently completed the MFA in Creative Writing and Poetics from the University of Washington, Bothell. Please welcome Denise Calvetti Michaels.
So I have so many thank yous to make, but I'm going to start and then get to that in a little bit. The first poem is Sometimes We Forget Our Mother. After the death of our grandfathers, sometimes we forget our mother. When she leaves on pilgrimage to the old country, my brother and I will conjure razor-thin silhouettes of pigeons embroidered between motets of dust, mauve wings veering above Piazza San Marco, though we were not there. Other times, we will refuse to let go of her postcards, clutching them close to our scapula like holy cards, imagining stray cat twilight, salt burning her lips, our eyes. Left behind in California, we roam, coastal gray towns on separate continents, learning perspective through the lens of the brownie black and white, given to occupy. Maternal absence, a ruby-eyed dragonfly, or ruby-throated like hummingbirds shimmering in the laurel branches. I don't know how else to say this. Gone for us was never a slow-drying Rembrandt, oil, intended for permanence. Rather ephemeral, like bonfire embers flung from the summit of El Capitan. Rogue synapses, Dennis and I lasso that summer in Yosemite to avoid the gunshot accident. After death of the patriarch, liminal space is cumulus between landscape and sky. By September, monarchs will pollinate Tuolumne Meadow before their migration. A cormorant on the pier will dry its wings, and the tiny tracks of saddened pipers wash to sea. So I actually have two books. One was a pandemic, and thank you to Paul Nelson for helping me launch it, as if you can call it that. I don't know. But that one was sort of based on my thesis, and it was called The Things Downriver. And this is, I'm going to read a few fragments from that. When I began, the light is a sheave of barley, the color of goldenrod embroidered wisps along the horizon. Where there are mountains, dawn's line is broken Morse code, dashes and hyphenations within the gaps of low elevation luminous things. Waterfalls, the army tents, grommets, those coppery tufts of the cottontail, snakeskin snagged on a sticker bush, and abalone shards at the bottom of a beach pail, remnants ablaze, scene of camouflage and wonder. When I begin, the light is a slip of goldenrod, first cousin to black-eyed Susan. Van Gogh sunflowers, intense marigold orange dye made organically from the bark of alder, carrot root, eucalyptus, onion, and twig of lilac. I also want to just express this sentiment that has really been overtaking me lately, just sheer gratitude for Cascadia, where I've been for 20 some odd years, and where Jared is a colleague of mine. We teach different things, but we care in a similar way, I think, about the humanities. But anyway, our book is called North Creek, which is named after a creek right there that has been under restoration for 25 some odd years, begun with UW Bothell crew, and then we joined in as well. Our students have done a lot of the work. It's a collaboration. But this is in the foreword to the book that I wrote. And I have this epigraph that I also have just been really drawn to by Ocean Vuong, Vietnamese American poet as well as novelist now. And he titled his novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. There is a 58-acre wetland beyond the college and university where willow and cottonwood shelter the riverine of North Creek and its wild inhabitants. Leaving campus at twilight, I've heard coyotes croon to the crows flying back to the rookery, and I've stood in the parking lot on cold October mornings when Canada geese fly their V-shaped formations high above the Osprey Eyrie, timing their flight with dawn over the Cascades. On trails near the water, I've witnessed the great blue heron camouflage between cattail reeds. Within this emerald universe, it is easy to believe enchantment will remain forever. I've been writing, I probably have a chapbook coming up. I have these Dear Daughter letters. I have 3 daughters. This one is called Love Letter Number 3, Dear Daughter. In the beginning, I look out the window and remember when you were not quite 3, dressed in the pink satin bunny costume I hand-stitched for Halloween. The zipper is broken, and the ecru embroidered camisa I asked you to wear underneath to keep warm is bunched up where the belly of the rabbit would be. Florets of the Mother's Day rhododendron pool on the ground, rouge red petals against dark earth. I watch you tamp the cotton undershirt back within the costume as though to tuck yourself, the girl, back inside, pushing against boundaries of reality and play. Should I say the young child is beguiling so that later we will retrieve the memory? How else to reflect on today's interlude when your boys open boxes of costumes your friends' twins outgrew during the pandemic? If I were Mary Cassatt painting pastorals of children and their mothers in France, you might critique my art as the effort to think by feeling. Billions of neurotransmitters leaping synaptic gaps to bridge emotion to memory. Here I might write about gestures of the body exposed to first light, perceptions of what our skin feels, basking translucent in rays of spring, or how the body yearns for both familiar comforts and novelty, not unlike the impulse to run naked in the rain on a stage of bewilderment, where borders between the real and play tilt, exchange places, push back, rebelling, and may explain how some children become Puck, the garden Elizabethan. I did not peer through a camera, there was no time. In a flash, boys running, costumes in hand, to stand on wooden chairs warmed by the sun and lickety-split shed socks and shoes, jeans, t-shirts. I should call to my daughter, I say to myself, tell you to watch with me, ask what you think, is this okay? But why? Children unaware of my gaze, as one whispers his reasons to be the pirate, the other ninja. I should go find the camera, but if I move, I will realign the air, and the space between here and where they now stand will collapse, as when the bird I observe senses I am about to turn the page. That's the end of that one. This, so I'm fortunate to have many grandchildren. I am just very blessed, and it's one of the sources of my writing. In fact, as I was looking for what to read, everything has children, and it's just the way it is. It's good. Surrogate Mothers. This is called Bare Roots, and it was written shortly after February 24th, 2022, Russia invading Ukraine. Surrogate mothers give birth to sets of fraternal twins on bomb shelter floors. House sparrows forage breadcrumbs between broken window shards, and a makeshift table set for 4 with crocheted cloth is a verb. I come here to grieve, but I remember tactile things, and I dig each hole with my hands to create space to plant bare root trees. Grandson Luke scans for a spot to plant perennials. When he decides where the sorrel will go, I listen to his reasoning. Your gentleness will help, I say. I'll find you a 4-leaf, he promises. Recurring nightmares of baby buggies, abandoned at train station in Kiev. I situate these steep ledges to sow on the edge of darkness, because loss has no roadmap, and each bare root is an intention I will discover. From the book called The Things Downriver, there's a series of fragments that tell a story. It was my retrieval of memories from childhood and my Italian-American paternal grandparents and this farm that they had. There were many farms, but this particular one they finally were able to own. I write about what craves the lyric. Silver strands brushed back with her hands, tattered with chicken feathers she's plucking in a vat of hot water to use to also wash clothes. And the gunny sack on the floor to dry bleating newborn lambs by the stove. And the valise Augustina used spring of 1911 to carry her belongings aboard the ship named the Berlin, Genoa to Ellis Island, is real as the gladiola she cultivated in the garden near the window. There are no journals or diaries handwritten by women like my grandmother living on the edge of town. Let's see, I'm close to concluding this, but I did want to read one. I think I'll close with one more love letter. This one is love letter number 2. I remember Sunday road trips before seatbelts to Monterey after church. I sat in the back next to Nonna Augustina, Italian-American great-grandmother you met only once when you were 3. We were driving to the ocean, leaving behind Salinas, primrose, lettuce, and strawberry, black earth valley in the shadow of the Gavilons. Hairpin turns as we pass Laguna Seca racetrack. How old am I? Not sure. Maybe James Dean is still alive, not yet driving his Porsche Spyder to the car rally September 55. I can barely see out the Chevy window. White-tailed deer bolt, Dad slams the brakes, and a stray we confuse with coyote that Dad laughs about. Live and let live, he says. I still hear the coyote in the ravine back of the house when I'm alone, and when you were a little girl, wakened with an earache. I sat with you, filling a warm water bottle, to divert you from the pain to the sound of the owl in the cherry tree above the kitchen window. Nonna never forgot to make the sign of the cross as we passed by the site of a wooden crucifix. Maybe I was barely 4, observing grandmother whisper prayers in dialect, absorbing dispositions for remembering. Dad explained each cross marked a resting place. Uncle Vargas called the marker descanso. Perhaps I did not hear any words at all. There are precious monuments you pass by and not understand. Talismans from the heart licked clean. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Denise. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and have 2 more readers. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I just realized I was the one that was supposed to get things started again. Okay, so we're going to finish the evening with two more of our poets. Our next poet is Paul Nelson, who is a 2001 Jack Straw writer. Poet and interviewer Paul E. Nelson founded the Cascadia Poetics Lab and the Cascadia Poetry Festival, which is coming very soon. Books include Day Song Miracle, Past 62, Cascadian Prophets, Interviews 1999 to 2023, Haibun de la Serna, A Time Before Slaughter, American Sentences, and other anthologies and collections. He's literary executor for the late poet Sam Hamill and lives in Rainier Beach alongside the Duwamish Creek. Please welcome Paul Hunter. Paul Nelson, sorry, Paul Nelson.
I'll still come up. That book of interviews, Cascadian Prophets, my interview with Diane DePrima in there mentioned. She's dead too, John. A lot of the people, actually half the people in this book have passed away. Mary Norbert Carty, Barry McKinnon, Colleen McElroy, Robin Blazer, Peter Cully, Sam Hamill, a lot of Canadians too. We were asked if we had recent books when we were asked to read, or when the call went out. And this was a book that was pretty recent. Cascadian Zen Volume 1 came out at the 7th Cascadia Poetry Festival. And I got the galley for Cascadian Zen Volume 2. Look at that, Morris Graves. Part of the Morris Graves triptych. And we're launching this November 1, 2, 3 at the 8th Cascadia Poetry Festival at the Hugo House and a couple of other venues. And then this book came out, Day Song Miracle, Past 62. After writing postcards for the summer, you write at least 31 postcards for the Postcard Fest, figured it's time after that to stretch your long-distance writing muscles. So to do a writing ritual where you write for a whole day. Just pick out a day, tell the spouse, I'll take care of the rabbit on that day, go see your sister. And it's after experiments done by Pierre Joris. It's harder than it sounds. It is harder than it sounds. The first couple, she was resentful, but then she's like, hey, this is pretty good, I'll stay at my friend's house. And so after the postcards, you get a chance to stretch your long muscles. And this particular one was a year in which I had 3 friends from Chicago from the old days. A couple of them I knew since 4th grade, died at age 62. And I was writing on September 8th of last year, 2 weeks before I was to turn 62. And so there's a lot of grief in that. And I woke up this year at 63, and it was amazing. It wasn't a sense of, I made it, euphoria. It was a sense of loss of these 3 friends who I've known since 4th grade. So that comes up a little bit in this part of the day song. I'm just going to read a segment of it. And I'll mention that in the Indonesian language, jiwa means soul. And I think that's all you should know about this. Timestamp. This is the second segment, 8:39 a.m. Hurricane Lee picked up 85 miles an hour in a 24-hour period, which tied it with Hurricane Matthew for the 3rd fastest rapid intensification in the Atlantic, according to NOAA research. The monstrous hurricane struck Haiti in 2016, killing hundreds in the Caribbean nation, while also wreaking havoc on parts of the U.S. Southeast. Rapid intensification happens when a storm's winds strengthen quickly over a short amount of time, defined as a wind speed increase of at least 35 miles an hour in 24 hours. Rapid intensification's the quickening, to revive or make alive. And here's Lee. Not so funny when you're on the business end of El Huracán, Mayan god of wind, storm, and fire. And we have a chance in the Anthropocene to quicken, to come alive, come to Jesus or Moses or Bapak or the prophet peace be with him, Allah, Kuan Yin, or insert your favorite mammal here. Mammal or ancestor. Make a shrine or ground altar. Or maybe just light a candle to Shango. See if you can close the distance between what you thought was your sharp local mind and mind as verb in place. A property in which we participate, says David Abram in The Air Aware. Along with the bush tits and stellar jays, Canada geese and August ospreys, cedar incense and retiring tree cops, gates of aster and work stoppages, desolation switchbacks and simple human prehension, this side of the veil of soul-making, invoking abuelitas and touching the ground, recognizing the daily miracles and forgiving the non-performers. Dogen's estimate is that miracles happen 3,000 times in the morning and 800 times in the evening when our consciousness is distracted by Michael Kopech walking 8 and taking the piss out of every jaded supporter of Las Medias Blancas who prefer Bridgeport over Nashville, Vienna beef over grits, Luther Allison and Muddy Waters and Patricia Barber and Chico Freeman over whatever's become of country and western, though John Prine will always know that topless lady had something up her sleeve. Rapid intensification of hurricanes and tornadoes, floods and burning ancient forests. Still think clean air's a given? It comes down to, as Duncan knew, and as the day song reveals each time it seems, that it is the war on the commons, communion, on community, and the breath Mackie knows is precarious, and not just for the brothers, but every mammal, hermano y hermanita, who born for this time, still mourn for this time. And the bees, and the yellow cedars, the big leaf maples, and shellfish incinerated in their beds in the last heat dome. Goodbye, piping plover. Goodbye, rainbow trout. Goodbye, chinook, chum, and coho salmon. Damn, your belly fat seared at Wabi Sabi was to die for. 944, another long quote. The contemporary word for the mind, psyche, was once the ancient Greek word for wind and breath, much as the word spirit derives from the Latin spiritus, meaning a breath or gust of wind. Likewise, the modern term atmosphere is cognate with the Sanskrit word for the soul, Atman, through their common origin in the older term atmos, which originally signified both air and soul indistinguishably, the atmosphere as the blustering soul of the world. David Abram from The Air Aware. My mind is not mine, but the atmosphere pushing through car exhaust and paper mill plumes and political campaigns and advertising and social mierda, searching for the soul that is earth, the balance that is our birthright, the way to thrive in late-stage capitalism. Next to the Spring Creek and the place of Loon, the locals once called Dok Web. How to venerate each astergate, each bit of earth for a time becomes a sort of a Catholic church of dirt with incense, asters or lavender, or pine cones, 200 crow feathers, and various other found festoonings. As Lorraine knew, Lorraine Niedeker. Remember Sorella Fuoco, Sister Fire from Black Hawk Island? As she did, you can befriend a tree. Easy on the madrone peelings. You can't be sure she likes it rough from the get-go. And so goes the life of an apprentice spiritual ecologist, as we all must become, venerating the water, and the Japanese charcoal system makes the Cedar River so tasty, and the ground that gives us Danish squash and buckwheat, soybeans and basmati rice, jalapenos, dragonflies, and Shakti with John McLaughlin, Sunday, September 3, 2023. I'm writing the dates down now so as to not have to Google it later. Take Bhakti to Ravinia to see Shakti. She's got to see Ravinia, Ma says, through her belly pain from the robotic surgery, tried to stem the stage 4 cancer, get any 6-decade smoker. Unless Reiki and forgiveness, relinquishing every last resentment, and recognize a few of the 3,800 daily miracles Dogen once counted and left for all we struggling mammals of the early Anthropocene. Atmosphere is blustering world soul and compassion for those who reject soul and think they'll find it in Foucault. Blustering world soul, each human soul is just a piece of. This gurgling bag of rotating cravings, this social mierda influencer, this honker in traffic, this would-be dominator in this era of rapid intensification and Nag Champa. This time of its weather will get their attention, and various media-fueled snowpocalypses, the apocalypse of the allopathic, in a time ripe for jiwa construction and fireweed appreciation and deep and intense Shakti. Shakti at 50 and Bhakti, and your humble narrator in row AA to the right and after Bela Fleck, John McLaughlin, tabla master Zakir Hussain, percussionist V. Selva Ganesh, vocalist Shankar Mahadevan, and violinist Ganesh Rajagopalan. They'll run through Srini's Dream, Shankar's Konakals, some kind of far-out Hindi scatting, maybe a shortcut to Nirvana via the metro stop at Ravinia, via performers who sit on an elevated stage cross-legged for 2 hours, walk after and fist bump amped up first-row fans here on the Gold Coast, which may have been ready for veneration with thousands of saris, attentive to breaking the rules and other sonic adventures guided by tabla and konakals, electric guitar and remnants of fusion, pure musical devotion as seen through teary, appreciative eyes, grateful for bhakti at their side, but desperate, hoping Paul and John could somehow get a taste of this oral feast, this sacred fusion of West and East via the celestial ear. 1209, September afternoon in the noosphere, an envelope of thinking substance. Postcards as thinking substance, with no envelope necessary. Postcard poems as akin to the bird work that gave this casa its name, nectar extraction. So polish off as much of that animal husk as you can, citizen, so as to make August a little more jiwa-centric. The noosphere depends on it, and miracles, the biosphere, in need of the miracle of your attention, as if it were a rock star parking spot. Rock stars need oxygen too. Postcard poets need stamps and glue, need ink and cards, though a rice checks box will do. Summer could be postcards and paying attention to the parade of berries comes to the PCC. Once blueberries from Yakima arrive, they're too big for buckwheat pancakes. Mount Vernons and Whitbys are later, and blackberries, of course, whose leaves the rabbit loves. Salmon berries, then 4th of July thimbleberries. You can bury yourself in postcards and fruit in Cascadia summer. Look for the iconic sockets of salmon berries, missing the berry part after some lucky someone enjoyed another miracle. This is how it is in 2023, early Anthropocene, and who knows, 50 years, bye-bye Florida, which may not be such a bad thing. Bye-bye island nations, U.S. East Coast, and what else? Lake waves adorn this corner of the noosphere, though it ain't square, and did hypnotize one Indian Shaker doctor we once knew, he of Cedar Tree. Thought they'd be here forever, which is a long time in Indian years. Indian meditation he called softening your lakeside or riverside gaze to be entranced by the animation-like effect of water on human consciousness. Thank you. The weight of the books is making this go down.
Thank you, Paul Nelson. Our last reader is Katharine Whitcomb, who was a 2011 Jack Straw writer. Katharine Whitcomb is the author of 3 full-length collections of poetry, including Habitats, published by Poetry Northwest Editions in January 2024, and 2 chapbooks. She has been awarded many fellowships, including a Stegner Fellowship from Stanford University, McDowell, FAWC, and others. She teaches at Central Washington University and divides her time between Washington State and Vermont. And more information can be found about her at her website. Please welcome Kathy Whitcomb.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's such an honor to read with these other great writers. I had put the flyer about this reading up on my Substack, which I have now. Can't believe it. But my friend from college said, it's such a coincidence. You're reading at the Jack Straw Cultural Center. And last night in Minneapolis, I saw the Grateful Dead in concert, and they played Jack Straw for the first time in 35 years. What a world. So, I thought that's cool. And I also wanted to mention that when I came here to the Pacific Northwest, it was in 2004 when I moved to take a job at Central. I was a little at sea at first, not knowing a lot of people, and becoming a Jack Straw Fellow with Susan Rich as the curator really made me feel like a Pacific Northwest writer, and, as did the Floating Bridge chapbook that I published. Those were kind of the first 2 big things for me in this part of the world, and I really appreciate that so much to this day. And I'm going to just read out of Habitats. And the habitats in this book are divided in 3 parts. There's the forest, there's hotels, and there's dreams. And I'll read poems from each of those. The first one is Lines for Midwinter. Time was, we threw an annual solstice party to burn our burdens, sent flaming-tongued depressor boats downriver with a cargo of curling photos of old boyfriends and bad habits scrawled on scraps. We waved goodbye from the shore and made lists of good wishes. This year, I cannot do it. Instead, I stomp a big circle through the snow, 1,000 footprints around the house, and do not raise my face once, though the birds overhead are hungry and I hear them. For me, no more trying on shirts for a turn before the mirror, no dreaming like a princess under my quilts. I am not young or uncomplicated or down to earth. The future is a candle flame painted by Gerhard Richter. The future is a lost dog on the road. Inside my house, a lamp is lit. Through the window, the walnut bookcase looks for a moment broad-shouldered and tall, like someone else. When I was a Jack Straw Fellow, Elizabeth Austin helped me figure out how to read this poem. So that's kind of cool. So this is a poem called Murder Mystery. So the car rests sad side up, as I say that. Okay, sorry, Elizabeth. So the car rests side saddle on the trail while she walks the dog, and she didn't tell anybody where she was going. No dog. Only her iPod, but no purse or backpack. not even a power bar in the pocket of her running pants. Or maybe the holidays came, and instead of flying east as usual, she didn't, and we just assumed. The creek bubbles thickly over the rocks down the slope, barely liquid. Footprints ink the snow, but they're blown out. No car, no dog, and the porch lights blaze all night and all day in an unnotable way. No more piles of envelopes carried to the post office. No sloppy shoveling jobs, no more shades up then down, no gray garbage bin on the curb Sunday nights. She kept a quiet house in the first place. Messages to the larger world: do not return the favor. She should have known. And fate has a tall swing like the one out back, where once her feet hit the blue curtain of the sky. All right, the hotel. This is Hotel Ljubljana, Slovenia. My secret curls like a miniature finial from a dragon bridge lamp. At night, the wind blows through the hotel window, slapping the scratchy mesh curtain, and I listen to you sleep. I carry my secret around with us like a bead in tissue. It floats beyond my fingers in an inner pocket of my blue rain jacket as we climb gravel paths up the hill to tour the castle. When I try to feed my secret to sparrows by the open pizza kitchen, feisty ones flitter behind me at the sound of your shudder. My outline glows there against the afternoon gloom. This secret is a tiny refusal. Words so difficult they stay impossibly small. River lights blink through agitated branches. Fiats hiss on drizzly Slovenska Česka, and a muse leans down to whisper in Presserin's waiting ear. When a wedding party strolls out from the castle, so does a hired Tyrolean band, pawing along the pathways in the rain. We watch the couple turn to face the camera of their friends. This is Hotel Budapest. Saint Istvan's mummified forearm is not on display, but a golden ceiling strikes the afternoon dusty light down the touristed apse and out the door over the cobbled square in front of his basilica. The bathroom in the coffee house across the street requires the code printed on my receipt, crumpled in the garbage. The market sits on Venhas Kurat, but we missed the market. I do not buy anything in Budapest except museum tickets, passes to a concert in Matyas Church, and a dish of ice cream. Saint Istvan is everywhere. His statue gazes stonily back at the cave church, which we do not pay to get into, by the famous baths we do not pay to get into. A lion on Szeszeny Lanchet turns his exhaust-stained back to me by a pile of urine-soaked cardboard. Old everything written on by new. The old everything hanging onto the banks of the Danube for dear life. Once this was a dear life, probably, but time is relentless. Buildings overheated and a wine festival raging on the museum lawn, folk dancers flying in circles across a makeshift stage. Each decision I make feels like a mistake. So jet-lagged, the money in my wallet could be lettuce, because how could something ever cost 12,000 of anything? Budapest curls its tail around its nose and settles into evening, the jazz club bolted shut. All those beautiful jewel box galleries fading like a big tired fish finally caught with the memories of the ballrooms he traveled through underwater. Who can say that is not so? The splendid chambers gone forever. I want to sit in a ruined museum palace doorway, slouch in the guard's black plastic chair, and stare at the same mediocre El Greco until the light is gone. The kitchens will be closed early, but we can drink together at a little table in Sag for as long as we want. Okay. All right, so we're into the dreams now. This poem was accompanying an artwork by my friend Tony Cruz, who's a lithographer, and Elizabeth Austin, when she was the Washington State Poet Laureate, solicited poems about drought and wildfire, and I submitted this for that, along with the art. Inscription found on a cliff face after drought. We fled our valley after the vine beans withered, followed the stream's dwindling trickle to the high trail. Burning brush fires chased us up to the tree line. Great flame bombs leapt grove to dead grove. The old people used to say to break a drought, one had to track the tiger, follow her far into the mountains and wait. Our wasteful lives caused the water to dry up, our only hope, her forgiveness. We hid in dry weeds for days near her paw marks. We had offered her our hunger gifts. She slipped behind the rock after rock, shy, then radiant. She breathed out dark clouds. We sang our songs so her tail waved with pleasure. She heard this story, and her sweeping tail raised the rain. Then we crossed under Marigold Gate alive, wet petals on our sleeves. So and I will contribute one of my own pandemic poems here. This is the last poem. It's called I Keep the Calendar Alive. I keep the calendar alive. I keep the calendar alive with daily treks. A small hawk treads air, hunting, then wafts over my head to perch on a pole. I run in the cold morning past a knot of confused cattle newly trucked into pasture. I yell, "Hi, cows, hi, cows." Every one of us breathing, chests up, chests down. They bawl, some tripping, circling back around. With each step, I move myself inside myself, face pricked by the bright wind bowling down from the foothills. Our days erode the dream we thought was time. I am we here as I run alone along a little-used road north of town. Sometimes I see snakes and skunks, dead, alive. Blooms of gnats catch my hair, hawk wheeling. That we all die used to be an abstraction. I count backwards, we, I. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I want to thank all of our readers tonight, John Burgess, Bill Carty, Denise Calvetti Michaels, Paul Nelson, and Katharine Whitcomb. Can we give them one more round of applause? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for listening. Our last reading in this series is going to be an online reading, so look out for that. That's November 21st, after who knows what happens to the world. So thank you all so much for coming. And yeah, and stick around and buy books.